neighborhood, and I've been living here for several years. This is my wife.
My name is Roslyn. Let me spell it. Roslyn. No A's and I's, okay? Uh, and I've lived in Woodlawn now for 20 years, since 1994.
Probably.
It's exactly.
Could you give me a short bio of your life living in the city of Chicago?
Well, I grew up on 47th Street. I went to Coleman Elementary School. I went to DuSable High School. I graduated in 1965 from DuSable. I went on to St. Francis University. I stayed there for 1 year, then I transferred to Southern Illinois University, where I met my lovely wife many years ago. I also played basketball in high school, in college, but since you asked for bio, so I'm not trying to impress anybody. I was a high school All-American, All-City, All-State. Went on to be involved with basketball on a professional level for a very short period of time. I went to the Indiana Pacers for a short period of time. Also went to the Seattle Supersonics for a very short period of time. Wound up getting cut from both teams, but nevertheless, I made it there. Basketball was very instrumental for me as far as being a springboard to get to college, because at that particular time in 1965, wasn't a lot of African Americans that had a lot of money that were able to pay for their educations and things like that. But we're part of what's called the baby boomer generation. And so a lot of opportunities opened up, not only for athletes, but just for young African Americans that wanted to go to college. We went through some very traumatic times as far as the Vietnam War was concerned, racism, the whole ball of wax. But I think that our generation did open up a lot of doors for the generation that followed behind us. We made a lot of mistakes, but we also did a lot of positive things. So for the most part, okay, I'm 67 years old, so I'm probably a little older than most of your parents. If I was part of your family, I would probably be your grandfather or something like that. So yeah, our generation was very positive in many ways, but there were some negative aspects as well. Also, I taught school for approximately 30 years. I taught at South Shore High School. I taught at Metro High School. And at Metro, I was a athletic director. Also, I worked in the area of exceptional education. I majored in physical education, but I evolved to the point where I wanted to be in the classroom more so than in the gym. And for that reason was why I wanted to go to the classroom, because I thought I would be able to help more in the classroom. I mean, the thing about sports and things of that nature, this is one of the big parts of our neighborhood, being entertainers, athletics, things like that. But everybody can't do that. And so my take on that was, what about the other kids that need help with reading, that need help in social areas, that need help in education, that need help in getting some positive ideas about what they're going to do with their lives, since they're not involved in sports or they're not involved in entertainment. So it was many kids that I dealt with. I didn't ignore the blessing that I got as far as being involved in sports, because without sports, I don't think I would have been successful. It depends on what you call success. So from that standpoint, it was very important in my life. But I think I got more out of just being able to deal with young people like you. I worked in the high school area, and elementary school kids, they just wrapped me around. I just couldn't handle elementary school, so that was the reason I wanted to deal with the older kids. But it was a challenge, and I would like to think that I helped some. It doesn't come with a manual. You have to have what's called student teaching, and so they prepare you for that. But when you actually get on a job, especially in education, none of that works. You're not prepared for that. So you're like thrown into this situation as a young person, and you're dealing with young people. And I wasn't very much older than the kids I dealt with. Senior in high school was 18. I'm 23. So I'm his supervisor, I'm his teacher, and I'm trying to guide him. So you learn as you go. That's my point. So the older that I got, I learned more, and I was able to be a better teacher. I would like to think I was. So in a nutshell, that's Sam Gowers in a nutshell, okay? Here's my wife.
You want to know from where I started? Or? Okay. I grew up in Altgeld Gardens, actually, until I was 11. My parents bought our home on 90th and King Drive, and I lived there through high school. I went to Harlan High School. I graduated from Harlan. I worked after that at the telephone company as a clerk. And one day I decided that I wanted to make a little bit of money and I better go to school. And that's when I decided that I was going to save my money, and I went to college. And in college, I majored in education. I majored in special ed. I graduated in 1971. I taught special ed in Chicago Public Schools for many years. And we had a lot of problems with financing special ed. And so I went into regular classroom. And I did that for 34 years. I retired in 2004. I'm not as much of a talker as my husband, right? And I retired in 2004. And right after I retired, I lived in Hyde Park, in Regents Park, for many years. I thought that's what I wanted to do, And one day, as I looked out of my window at the water in the park and all of that, I decided, Rise, it's time for me to go down on the ground and be with the birds and the trees and blah, blah, blah. And so I did that. And I went looking, and I bought a house over here in Woodlawn. I didn't know anything about Woodlawn when I moved over here. It was a bunch of abandoned buildings, and it was rather scary, to be very honest. The L tracks were still running in the back of my house. And I said, girl, have you made a mistake here? What, Rise, are you sure this is what you want to do, But anyway, make a long story short, I was determined that Woodlawn, my home, I was going to fix up this old house, and I was going to make it my home. And 20 years later, it is my home, it is fixed up, and I love it. And the Woodlawn has really changed over the years in terms of the people that are walking around. You don't have, we don't have as many gang-related things going on. At first I was kind of scared to go out into my backyard. I wouldn't, because it was surrounded with abandoned buildings. And after I lived there about 10 years, then they started building the condos that are on Kimbark right now. As I looked through my window, I was really, really happy, because I knew that things were getting ready to change here. And over the years, and I said that's been about 10, 12 years now, since things have really started to change. What else, yeah.
One of the biggest problems that we've had in the Woodlawn area has basically been drugs, gangs, young people killing other young people, and it's been depressing. But over the years, a lot of things have changed, and over the years, more people have become involved in the neighborhood, and it makes me feel good to see young people like you that's involved in different programs. You're not in a gang, you're not running around, these young men are not running around with their pants hanging down, or whatever, and the thing is that we as a people in Woodlawn had lost respect for each other. No morals, no values, no understanding, no wisdom, no spirituality, none of that. And all those things are very, very important in all our lives. And as a young person, I was taught these values. I might have forgot them or neglected